Check, check. Blueprints are the node-based visual scripting language in Unreal Engine. Oh, Unreal Engine 4 and 5 and 3 and 2 and 1. Always been the visual scripting language of Unreal. It's node-based, so you connect little lines to the boxes, and different events happen depending on what you connect to what. It's a lot easier said than done. You have to know what all of these things are, what you're looking for, what all the different nodes are called. There's hundreds of them. There's two types of blueprints in Unreal Engine. There is the level blueprint, which is attached to every level that you make in Unreal Engine. Maps, levels, whatever you want to call them, same sort of thing. So those level blueprints are code that will control functionality in that level. And then there are blueprint classes, which you could think of like little prefabricated modules. If you've ever used Unity before, perhaps you've used prefabs, similar sort of thing like that. So you could have, say, I don't know, you could have like let's say a mesh of a refrigerator, right? And there's multiple refrigerators in this game. Whenever it's a game about refrigerators, right? And when the character goes up to the refrigerator, the door opens up and the light turns on. So that code for the trigger for detecting when the player walks up to it, the animation for the door opening up on the skeletal mesh of the refrigerator, and then the light turning on in the refrigerator when the door opens up, all of that is code that could be created with blueprints. And then if you put that in a level blueprint, you'd have to duplicate it a bunch of times because they're all unique refrigerators. Say we have 100 refrigerators in the level. The blueprint class, we can make that code one time, and then we just drag it out from our content browser like it is another asset. Does that make sense? So I made that analogy up on the fly, so take it or leave it. So there are different types of blueprints that exist in Unreal Engine, most of which are actors. Remember, actors in Unreal Engine are anything that you can put in the world. There are also characters and playable sorts of objects that you can create using blueprints as well. The example of the refrigerator that I just used, all of those other 100 refrigerators would be instances of that parent refrigerator. So, I could go into the blueprint and change the color of the light from white to red. And I wouldn't have to do that 100 times. I would just do it to the parent, and all the children would inherit that change. This sort of instancing exists in all sorts of softwares, not just in blueprints in Unreal, but also in materials with Unreal as well. The way that we can create a blueprint class we're getting more people talking about blueprints. Yeah, I thought you would. Oh. Okay, yeah, I got your email. Thank you. So to make a blueprint class in Unreal, like all softwares, there's a half dozen ways to create anything. But the easiest way to create a blueprint class is in the content browser, going to the add button, and then going to blueprint class right up top there. When you click blueprint class, it's going to pop up this window and ask you which type of class do you want to create. Is it a playable character? Is it something that can be controlled from a controller? Is it like a UI widget that is on top of the screen? Is it something in the world, like the refrigerator example I used? Which one of those? Most of the time, it's an actor because it's something that you're putting into the world. We will create actors in our little demo today. You can also create blueprints from things that already exist in the world. For instance, if I had a light in my world in Unreal Engine, a point light in this example, and I wanted to turn that into a blueprint, I wouldn't have to start from scratch and delete this one and create a blueprint and then put a light in that. I could just click the little blueprint button over here. It looks like a little set of nodes right there next to the right of the add button. And it would allow me to turn that into a blueprint. So the interface of blueprints is similar to like everything in Unreal Engine. We have all of these different panels that we work with. So up top, this is just the main toolbar. This is where we can compile our code. This is where we can play our code if we have to, or if we want to preview it. One of the more important windows is the components window. Components in Unreal think of them as pieces of a prefabricated module. So in the case of this character right here that is in this blueprint, also attached to this is that capsule collision for the collision of the actor, that little capsule there. So that is a component. You can see it's the capsule component right there up top. It's a component of the character. And there's also the mesh itself, and for whatever reason in this screenshot, there's that arrow that's attached to it. I think that's just to get the facing, although it seems to be facing the wrong way. Down here in the My Blueprint section, this is where we can create functions and variables. Over on the right is the details panel, same as the details panel in the main Unreal Engine editor. This is where we can change everything from the transformation to the animations to the materials having to do with whatever actor we're clicked on. In the middle there, number 5, the main viewport. That is an isolated view of the assets comprising your blueprint in Unreal Engine. Number 6, it's actually this tab right here, Event Graph. Event Graph is where we go and actually do our code. This right here is an event graph. So that's where all of the node-based scripting goes in the event graph. Pro tip, if you ever close this tab down by accident, you can just double click down here in the My Blueprints section and it should pop back up. The blueprint toolbar, we already talked about that. Components view, talked about that already. All of these things we talked about. And here's the My Blueprint window with different variables. Boolean variables, float variables, integer variables, whatever sort of variables you need. Maybe we'll try to make some variables we'll do like a coin pickup sort of video game thing. We'll see how it goes. We're doing this all live, so potential for catastrophic failure is high, but it'll be all right. The details panel, like I said, and the viewport. This is an interesting viewport view of a first-person character blueprint. So the camera is butted right up next to the arms holding the weapon here. And that character becomes the camera in this first-person game. The event graph, like I was saying, this is where all the nodes go. These nodes, it looks like there is, the red ones are inputs, the green ones are float variables. Looks like here we have like some gamepad inputs from the analog sticks, it looks like. And they're controlling the head movement of the character, the camera. So right-clicking on the event graph, and you will get a huge list of different nodes that you can place. The event graph for blueprints and the material editor node graph, they look very similar. Similar sort of mechanisms, right-clicking to get the list of all the nodes. I know we haven't created super wild materials in here or anything, but if you went into the material editor and right-clicked, you would get a list of everything. Same thing with blueprints. Go into the event graph, right-click, you get a list of all sorts of stuff, most of which you will never, ever, ever use. Some of which you will use a lot. You can see some of those things here. There's also a palette of nodes in the editor. If you just want a big long list that you can scroll through, pinned to the side of your window, you can do it that way. It's nice because you can add favorites for things that you use often. The nodes event, actor, begin, overlap, and end overlap. Those are nodes that we'll use today. They're nodes that get used a lot because it's a collision box. Is your character or something hitting it? Yes or no? Okay, do something. Unreal Engine's search functionality is really useful, but sometimes it can be frustrating because of this box up here in the right called context sensitive. If you're clicked on one node in the event graph and you drag off a wire from it, it will pop up this window, just like in most node-based softwares like Nuke. It will pop up, and if you have the context sensitive button checked, it will give you a list of things it thinks that you might want to use. If you ever are missing something that you know you should have access to, it might just be Unreal being funny. Uncheck the context sensitive box, try it again. It should find it then. It's nice because it's a time-saving thing. You don't have to look through a huge list of things, but sometimes it's buggy. And like I said, you can drag wires off of the nodes and it will pop up the menu, or you can right-click. So dragging wires to connect, left-clicked button, disconnecting wires just like with materials, holding down Alt and clicking on the wire and it will disconnect it. Here we can see we have these red nodes, the green node, and then the turquoise node. The green and turquoise nodes are data nodes. They are variables for, in this case, it looks like some sort of energy that a game might have and the number of lives that a character might have. The white pins on these nodes are execution pins, meaning that something has to happen. In this case, we begin play. As soon as we begin play, this node fires out a signal and sets this variable for energy to 100. Makes sense. If you're starting the game, you probably start with 100 energy. And it also sets 3 lives. The colored pins here, the turquoise one and the green one, these are data pins. You can also have true false kind of Boolean statements in blueprints using branches. Event begin play. What is the condition that we're asking? Is big health pack, whatever that means. Is it big health pack? If that's true, when we start the game, set health bonus 100. If it's not big health pack, set the health bonus to 50. All this happens very, very quick. Actually, before these impulses fire off from here to here, it goes and checks what the condition is, and then it fires off into true or false. Happens very, very quickly, practically instantaneously. So in this case, this would be useful to know in that setting the energy here, when we start the game, event begin play, this energy variable does not get set until these things are determined. What is the player's current level, I assume, of energy? Take that, in this case, they're multiplying it by 30, and then set the energy to that. So event the game plays, it takes the player's current level of energy, whatever that may be, multiplies that by 30, and then sets the new energy as that multiplication, that math problem. So why don't we do some of this live? Why don't we mess around, break some things? What do you think? Check, check. Whatever you want. You could use your existing project too. Whatever you want. In this case, I'm just using my existing project that we've been using. Maybe I'll just go ahead and go to File, New, and create a new level, just a new basic level. Or you know what? Actually, what I think would work better in this case is, do we all have the, are you all using the third-person character map still, or have you switched to something else? Well, I don't, because it would say third-person character down here. Maybe we should use a third-person character, because we are making a game in this case. So if we just want to start and make a new one, let's just go make a new one. That's a good question. You're right on top of me for that. It's perfect. So we need something to run around, right? We're going to make a little game. We need something to run around. So I'm just going to close down my old project then and let a new one start. I'm going to do third person. Everything should work fine with first person, but of course it won't. So you're on your own. You do first person and I do third person. All right, that's a better idea. We try not to purposely introduce any differences between us because we'll crash and burn. So I'm just going to do games, third person. So call this Pratt Blueprints. We're freestyling, so the possibility of failure is incredibly high. We're living dangerous.
Maybe not.
Nor am I. But we're going to crash and burn together. It's going to be beautiful. It's what makes you feel in front of other people. I had a teacher once that was live coding C++ code, and he was crashing and burning so hard. It was hilarious because he was a goofy guy and he kind of just owned it. But it was just something I remember a lot. Compile those shaders. Now, I know I said this isn't really relevant to making offline films like we do in this class, but if you were to, you could make a film live, you just kind of recording it the live version of it rather than the keyframe version of it. I think we watched those examples of some Team Ruffles videos. And they do everything live. They set up all of these scenarios using motion capture controlled characters that are being puppet driven by motion capture suits live. They control the camera live with other motion control. They have triggers and joysticks and keypads set up to different vents in the world. And those things are all happening live. So they're making a video. The end result is a video, but it's more of a live performance that gets recorded instead of like a keyframe based video like we focus on in this class. All right, I have the third person. I think we did this the very first class almost, clicking play and running around. Clicking play is not something that we really have done or have a reason to do in this class with keyframes and rendering. But that's what we're going to do today. So let's go ahead and start. Let's create a level blueprint. Or we don't have to create it, it's already created. Level blueprints are attached to every level that you make. So if you go up top here to the little data flow node-based icon, and you go down to open level blueprint, should open a level blueprint. I'm going to snap my window to my other window so I can alternate between these. And here we have two nodes by default. Event begin play. Something happens as soon as the play button is hit. As soon as the game loads, or the level loads, or whatever it is that you're making loads, this happens, anything that's connected to this. There's also event tick. Event tick sends out a signal every single frame of your game. So this is happening quite rapidly, very, very fast. Event tick we might use today. Pro tip, event tick is often not used because it can bog down games. If you're sending out an impulse and triggering things every single frame of the game, you better have a really good reason for it, because computationally that can be very expensive and slow things down. Well, let's just do a simple hello world. So if we right click in this note in the empty space here, Lauren, can you turn the light, the front lights off? Yeah, a little bit better. That's good. That's bad. That's good. There we go. Perfect. So in the empty space here, if we right click and we type in the search print, we're looking for print string. All this is going to do is just print something to the screen. Print string. When do we want to print the string? When the game starts, when we begin play. So I'm going to grab onto the output of event begin play and connect it to print string. When we begin play, say hello. And if I go back to my map, it's not going to be super exciting, but you'll get little text that pops up over here on the left that will say whatever your print string says. There it is. Hello. We're programming, y'all. Very exciting. We're doing it. All the functionality that we build going forward is kind of built on this principle. Let's do something a little bit more interactive, perhaps. Why don't we right-click again in the empty space of blueprints and, I don't know, pick a keyboard key. I'm going to pick like the K key. and kind of scroll down until you find that key on your keyboard. Try to do like just a regular key so you don't mess anything up with keyboard shortcuts. I'm just going to do the K key. And here I have some outputs for when the K key is pressed and when it is released. I can have different things happen. So if I create another print string, right click, print string. I don't know, maybe I'll say K key, pressing the K, or whatever you want. So when we hit the K key, it's going to say this text. It should be noted that these print strings are, this text will never be displayed in a game. This is not how you would display game text, like on the UI. This is just for debugging and prototyping. As you'll see in a moment, we can print very useful data to the screen, like the location of different actors around the world as they move. You can print any sort of data to the screen, but it's just for development, like it says here. It's not for actual like gameplay text on the screen. So I'm going to go back, go to play, and when I click my K key, press it. Yeah. Yeah, you might have to actually click into your main window for it to activate. So if you're clicked on something else in the editor, it's not going to actually control anything. What? Oh my gosh. I can't do the hello world. You're not going down together. This is not a level to create a activator. Okay, it will be one of those later. But actually level. Getting ahead of ourselves here. We should go with confidence. Yours should work. Yeah, mine. Oh, all right. I overheard that it didn't. Is that not true?
No, I don't know what I'm
All right, so we've printed some stuff to the screen. Most exciting game ever. We do something a little bit more useful, maybe. We go back to the level blueprint, and maybe we'll use event tick this time. And let's, I'm going to create a couple nodes here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say get player pawn. Get player pawn. That's what we're looking for. Get player pawn. So my playable character is the player pawn. Get player pawn. And I'm also going to right click and say get actor location. Why is this not popping up? Maybe drag off from the blue from get player pawn. Yeah, get actor. So that's that context sensitive. I bet if you unchecked context sensitive, it would be there. But sometimes it happens. It's so annoying, but mostly useful. Ooh, not get actor transform, get actor location. There's a lot of nodes that sound similar too, so it's easy to get confused. Let's create another print string. And this time, we're going to plug this locational value, which is actually a vector value. It's yellow. So this vector value is going to give us X, Y, and Z, 3 data points. And it's going to turn them into a string, which in this case is text and numbers. So we're going to take the yellow and drag it into the pink of the string. Now you may see this little yellow to pink node get created. You don't right click and create that. It automatically happens. It's a conversion node that gets created when you plug one type of data into a different type of data. If it can be translated, it translates. All right, let's plug event tick into print string. Actually, you know what? First, let's plug event begin play into print string. And you may notice that when I did that, it disconnected from my top hello. We are no longer saying hello when the level starts. Now we are going to print the player pawn's location. So if I go back to play, this is going to happen very quick. Play gives me the XYZ coordinates for my player. But it only does it once because it's only being triggered when I click play. Before I show you how to keep that reoccurring and happening every frame, I want to introduce a new node here called the sequence node. This is a little confusing because we use sequencer and there are sequences in Unreal, but there's also a node called sequence, which is, I like to think of it like a power strip. You know, you plug it into the wall and then you get 8 power outlets from one. So the sequence node gives you this, which I can then plug event begin play into. I can plug my print string for hello into, and I can plug my get actor location into. So now I can have multiple things plugged in at once, and I can even add more pins if I want to. But in this case, we're not actually going to use event begin play for our get actor location. We're going to plug in event tick to it, which I see some of you have already done. Remember, event tick gives us data every single frame. So it's going to constantly be printing our player's location to screen. And nothing looks like it happens until I move, and then the information changes. If I stay stationary and just jump, you can see just the Z value changes, not the X and Y values, because Z is up in Unreal Engine. This is where I think you can start to begin to understand the power of taking this data and applying it onto something else. What if I could, this is a really lame example maybe, but if I had a game and I wanted to control, say, like the brightness of a light, I could take the brightness of a light and have it correspond to the Z value, the Z jumping value of my character. Which in this case, I'm at 302.150 for my height, my Z value, because I'm actually on top of something. But if I went down here, now I get lower. So if we were to do that where the brightness of the light changed based off of my jumping height, I would have to do some other sorts of subtraction to figure out how high is the actual world that I'm standing on, maybe subtract that from the value of me jumping to get a value that works across all heights. But that's for another time. What else could we do if we knew this knowledge? We could have different events happen based off of player location. It'd be easier to use trigger boxes probably in that case than like triangulation values from X, Y, and Z. Well, you can create a range, but it's much easier to just drag a big trigger box in than worry about all these numbers. You can also separate out the numbers too. All right, let's keep doing some more stuff. Talking about trigger boxes, why don't we make a trigger box? So if we go to the place actors menu, the cube with the green plus, and we go to basic, you'll see trigger boxes down here. Trigger box, trigger sphere. I'm just going to do trigger box. And it's just an empty volume in Unreal Engine. Maybe I'll scale it up. Something I'm happy with. Maybe I'll make it so when the player is within this green circle, so I'll try to scale it to that size about. You know, I'm making a box on a circle, so it's not going to match up perfectly. You can make trigger boxes in any shape you want. You can make custom size trigger boxes. But in this case, we're just going to fudge it together and call it a day. After you've added that, let's go back to our level blueprint. We're going to use a new node. And this is where it's useful to be clicked on the things that you actually want to do programming on. So make sure you have the trigger box selected. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. So trigger box selected in the outliner. If we right click in the level blueprint now, the things that you have selected are right up top. Things that you can do with them are right up at the top of the menu. So you don't have to go hunting for it. So what we want to do is add an event, collision, add an event for trigger box, collision. It'd also be good to like name your trigger boxes too, because otherwise you're gonna have trigger box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. So add an event, click collision drop down, add actor begin overlap. And maybe I'll just right click again and get the overlap end too. So begin overlap and end overlap. And they're red because they are event nodes. When this happens, do these things. Let's just get another print string. Say in the box. I'm going to have another print string that says out of the box. And plug them in. Oh, just right click. Should be right next to. Got it? There you go. You may want to disconnect the event tick for the player's location because it's just going to flood the screen with all the XY values and we're not going to see the trigger box triggers. Go ahead and go back and play. When I enter the box, the blue text says in the box. When I exit, it says out of the box, in the box, out of the box, in the box, out of the box, jumping in the box, jumping out of the box, out of the box. We're just printing text to the screen right now, but this could be hooked up to anything. Set the player's health to 100%. Open the door. Turn the lights on. Trigger the cutscene where the camera takes over the screen and all these animations start to play. Play the sound effect. Play the particle effect. do multiples of these things, kill the character, end the game, take a screenshot and write it to disk. Any of these things can be hooked up to an event. In this case, just a regular trigger box. Let me introduce another node to you here. I'm going to right click and type delay. Delay does what you would expect it to do. It delays the signal by a preset duration. So I'm going to hook back up the ones for my player characters XYZ location, and I'm going to set the delay to something like, I don't know, every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, the computer's ticking, tick, 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 tick. But this signal only gets through every 2 seconds. And then it prints the character's location. Let's see how this works. I don't usually do this one, so we're going off-road here. Yep, it's printing much slower. Of course, it only updates when I'm moving. If I stay still, it's going to print it to the screen, but it's going to be the same values. We're doing stuff. But why don't we get a little bit more fun with these trigger boxes? Why don't we make some room for ourselves? And we're going to use the event begin overlaps still. We're going to use that trigger box still. But let's go back to the level and let's create a spotlight. So the place actors window, lights, spotlight. And I'm just going to try to center it right over top of this circle. Maybe raise it up a little bit. Maybe crank the intensity a little bit. Maybe I'll also go to my directional light and, you know what? Let's use the sky atmosphere here since we already have it. Remember, I think I gave you guys this keyboard shortcut. If you're clicked on the sky atmosphere icon and you hold down Alt, what is it? L left click? Alt L left click? I never remember this. Control L. There we go. Control L. You click on sky atmosphere and hold down Control and then L. You can then drive around the sun. Make something a little bit more moody for my dark lighting. Maybe that is way too intense for the spotlight. There we go. It's always a good reminder to save. All right, let's do something more fun now with the light, the spotlight here. We're going to trigger this light on and off with the trigger box on event begin overlaps. So the easiest thing is to have your spotlight selected because I want to create a reference to it in the blueprints. So selected spotlight, go back to the level blueprint, right click. It's great because I have it selected. It has all the stuff right up top. I'm going to create a reference to spotlight. Good reminder to create custom names for your lights. You don't have a million spotlights. A spotlight. I'm going to drag out from spotlight and type in set intensity. Set intensity light component. Make some room for myself because I have to do a little branching here. And I'll create two set intensities because when I'm out of the box, I want to set a different intensity than when I'm in the box. And connect these together. What we haven't done yet is we haven't connected the targets of anything. The target in this case is the spotlight. So I need to connect this blue node to both of the targets on both set intensities. And then you can pick a number that you want. I think when I was editing it, 150 looked good. For me, yours will be different, probably. So when I'm in the box, I want to set it to 150. When I'm out of the box, I don't know, maybe I'll set it to 10. I don't want it to be completely off, but you could. Stuff's happening. I see it.
Yeah, set the spotlights.
I'm gonna go ahead and play mine and check it out. I start under my spotlight already, so I've already triggered the trigger box. So I need to get out before stuff starts to happen. That's fun. So this is where it would be useful to use those print strings that pop up over here, right? The in the box and the out of the box. I still have all that stuff hooked up right here. That's useful for debugging purposes because if this is working, it says in the box when I'm in it, out of the box when I'm out of it. I know that my trigger boxes are working and they're getting signal from my character. If it's not working for some reason, but I'm still getting the text, then I know there's something wrong with this part of the code. It helps you debug things. Obviously, this is a very simple example. Things can get much more complicated where that would be more of a use, but it's a simple example. Everybody get that working? Where are we at? Let me just put the nodes back up on the screen. Did you create a spotlight? So create a reference in Blueprints to that spotlight by right. Okay, you did. What is that node you have connected? You have, no, get rid of that. Drag off from the spotlight and type in a set intensity. There's two set intensities. Get the one that says light component. It's the one I'm using at least. And then connect the input execution pin back to the trigger box for the actor begin overlap. The white one. Yeah. Little pro tip, organization. You can use the Q key with a bunch of nodes selected. If I hit the Q key, it will straighten all of them. We're using trigger boxes and turning on lights with code, but the most exciting thing is straightening your wires. Always gets an ooh and a ah. Oh, Nicholas, I just got your email about being locked out. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. People love me.
This door or the door?
No, the hall door is hilarious. I was like standing out there.
I thought you said you could get into them.
Like,
Oh,
yeah, oh, that's good. What quickly second by?
so I wasn't ignoring you. I just thought now.
No, it's fine, but
Don't take it personally. All right, where were we? Let's do something else. So we're not working on like a keyframed based timeline right now with Sequencer, but we still can use timelines with blueprints. Why don't we, why don't we create, we do a couple things. Let's create a new light, a new point light down here, I guess. And let's create a new trigger box around it. Basic trigger box. And I'll kind of move them next to each other. I know this isn't a game design class, but the trigger boxes are invisible, right? So probably be useful to have some sort of visual indicator for the player that they're about to step into an area to do something, right? Either with a texture or let's just even simpler here. Maybe I'll just create another cube, shape cube, and maybe I'll just place it within my trigger box, kind of as a pedestal for the player to stand on. Some sort of visual indicator that this is a thing. We could get crazy and not only control the light here, but we could also have the material on the cube change with code if we wanted to. Should be pretty cool. Make it dynamic and interactive. So here we have another trigger box, which is aptly named trigger box 2. And point light. I'm going to go to my blueprint with my trigger box, with my new trigger box selected, right click, add an event for it, add a collision for it, add a begin overlap for it. This trigger is not trigger box by itself, it's trigger box 2. Probably should name it something custom. That's okay. I'm also going to get a reference for that new point light that I made. All I do is just select it, come back over to blueprints, right click, create reference to point light. And I'm going to do the same thing, set intensity. When I enter the trigger box, set the intensity to something. We're setting up this the same, but we're going to add a timeline to it in a second. So I'm just going to set the intensity to 100 here on this trigger box and this point light. I'll go in and test it out first just to make sure everything's working. I think this one is, oh, look at that. There's a little glowing white box down here. I wonder what will happen if I step on it. Oh, the light becomes so intense. And I don't have anything happen for when I step out. But that's okay. Because in this game, that makes sense. So this is where things are going to get a little different. So we have the intensity being set. I also want to create let's drag out from here, from set intensity, and let's say light color. Set light color. And I'll set this, I don't know, to red or something. So now when I step into the trigger box, it's going to set the intensity to 100 and it's going to set the light color to red. Pretty straightforward. Still haven't used the timeline yet. That's next. Oops. I got a compiling error. Check that out. Because it doesn't have a target. If I look down here in the error, it says this blueprint is not a light component, therefore target must have a connection. Okay. If I click on target, it's going to take me right to the node that's the problem. And yeah, it needs a target. Just like set intensity has a target, I need to plug a target into light color here. That's okay. I'm just going to pull this down and drag the target into the target. Compile. It compiles now. Go back to the level. Click play. Now if I run down the ramp, it should get really bright and red. Ta-da! So exciting. Let's take it a step further. Use a timeline to set the color. Instead of having the color be set to red permanently, what if we could have a timeline that drives, I don't know, a flickering or like a shift from red to green or some other color? Whatever you would want to do, we could do that. So if you right click in Blueprints and type timeline, add timeline component is not what we want. Uncheck context sensitive timeline. Where are we at? Oh, it's all the way at the bottom. Add timeline. Add timeline. It's going to ask me what I want to call it. I'll call it color. It's this big old yellow node here. So this new node has a bunch of inputs and outputs, but also you can double click it and go into it and create timelines. This becomes a new tab up top here. So if you ever close this down by accident, back of the event graph, you can always double click it to open it back up. Now, right now, things are very empty here. We have to create some new tracks. So if we click the plus track button and let's, what do we want to do? Add a vector track or add a color track? The color track. Actually, color tracks are relatively new. Choose color. Okay.
Sorry, what was the name of the node again? Was it a-
Timeline. Timeline. But it's all at the bottom, and it has. You may have to unclick context sensitives, and it has like a little clock next to it. So new track, color track is what I'm going to try. And I'm going to double click on these nodes. Usually I use a vector track, but this color track is something I haven't seen before. So we're doing it live. I guess you just click on these little color sliders down bottom and set the color. Maybe I want to have the color change from red to green, I guess. I'm going to see if this works. If it doesn't work, we might just use vector track again. Or you know what? Let's just use a vector track. Track, add vector track. And I'm going to lay down a keyframe. Add keyframe to all curves. And I'm going to set the time to 0. I'm going to set the value to 1. Actually, I want to set the x value to 1 and the time to 0. So we're dealing with red. Oops. I set the other ones back to 0. And turn them off. Just red. And then maybe I can go down here in the timeline. This is seconds up top. So 0 seconds. By default, this timeline's 5 seconds long. It doesn't have to be 5 seconds long. You can change the length right here. Maybe I'll change it to 2.5 seconds. It's a little faster. Oops. Accidentally closed down my level blueprint. Good reminder to save. And then maybe I'll right click at what do I want to right click at? I'll set this to 2.5 time, and I'll set the value to 0. This is more for a flicker rather than a color. Maybe I'll click on X again and take this down to 0. So what I'm going to have happen is, oops. Sorry, my nodes are getting a little crazy here. Oops. Let me try this again. Add key to X. I'm going to add 3 keys to X. I'm going to lock Y and Z, so I'm just modifying X. I just deleted all my keyframes because it was a mess. Because it crashed for me for a second. Sorry. I'm going to set the last one to 2.5, so it's at the end. I'm going to set the value to 1. I'm going to set the first one to time 0. I'm going to set the value to 1. And I'm going to set the one in the middle to time what's 1.25. Set the value to 0. So it's going to look like this. 100 at 0, down to 0 at 1.5 or 1.25 seconds, and then back up to 100% red at 2.5 seconds. Let's see what this looks like, and then we can debug it if we need to debug. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So we're starting to add a lot of stuff now. Oops. One thing though, before we start with that, this track right now is new track _1. If I just call this, or right click on it and rename it just red. Now look at this output on my timeline node. There's output there, the yellow one that's called red value. So instead of setting the new light color, I'm going to plug the output here into new light color. So new light color is going to be driven by this timeline rather than manually set. I'm going to drag this node into play. And I'm going to drag update into set light color. Starting to become a long line of things now. Let's compile this. Let's go back. Let me see if it's working. Oh, it is. Look at that. It happens once because I didn't click loop, but let's see what happens if I click loop. Go back into the timeline. Where's the loop button? Oh, right there. Loop. And we'll just keep looping this. Dim, bright. Dim, bright. So the blueprint has triggered a timeline for some sort of data. This could be light brightness, it could be color, it could be any sort of data that you have on a timeline. You're just setting keyframes to be played through by a blueprint. I know there was a lot there. Let's step through it again, and then we'll take a break. So I created a trigger box and a point light here. And I added a little white cube just to sink into the floor as a visual indicator. It's just a cube. There's nothing fancy about it. There's no code associated with that cube. Although I could have, when we come back from break, we can create blueprint classes. So I could create a blueprint class that has a trigger box and this cube attached to it, as well as the code for the light potentially. This could be a whole thing, like the cube, the trigger box, and the point light with the code could be turned into a blueprint class that I could then place a bunch of these all over the world without having to do this multiple times. Goes back to that refrigerator analogy that I had in the beginning. So we have a point light and a trigger box, and then in the code with the trigger box selected, I right clicked. I got on actor begin overlap from event. Oops, trigger box. Add event, collision, add actor begin overlap I got. And then I clicked on the point light. I right clicked and got the reference to the point light, which is what this thing was. And then I put a set intensity light component. I dragged the light component into the target. Then I also created a light color, which also has the target set to the light component. Then I created a timeline node. Timeline down at the bottom here, add timeline. I think this is where it got a little tricky, double clicking into this. And you could do the color track, but I did a vector track. And I just took the X value, which is red, and I just made it 1 at 0 seconds, at 1 1/4 second, or I made it, yeah, 100% one red, 100% red at 0 seconds. At 1 1/4 seconds, I made it 0 red, so it's going to make it black. And then at 2.5 seconds, where my timeline ends, I made it 100% red again. So it's just a linear up and down, up and down. I also set my length to 2.5, so it was faster, and I clicked loop. And the Y and Z values are just nothing. I'm not doing anything with them, just the X. And then in the event graph, because I renamed my track to red by right-clicking and saying rename, it created an output node on color called red, and I just connected that to new light color. This converter node gets automatically created when you take a vector and turn it into, in this case, a color. That one was a little more complicated. Started off with the hello world. Now we're changing colors, having a color dim in and dim out with the timeline. There's more stuff happening. What do we think? Blueprints. You glad we don't have to do this? Would you rather program some C# with Unity? No? There are some node-based programming with Unity, but mostly just C#. Yeah, as a visual person myself, I love blueprints. I don't use them that often, but when I have to, I like it a lot, and I like other programs like Touch Designer and Max MSP and Isadora, those sorts of visual scripting programs I find are really neat, rather than typing void setup semicolon hashtag, that sort of thing, error. I constantly, whenever I do something remotely programming, I think I had this memory of I had to have been like 9 or 10 years old, and for some reason I thought I was going to teach myself how to code C++. So I was like, Dad, let's go to Best Buy. And they had a big ass book of C++. It's like this thick. Had a CD on it that had all like the sample code and stuff. Followed along in the chapters, and I was typing my code in the compiler, and I did the hello world. That's about all I remember, was doing the hello world. And that was 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. So yeah, I like blueprints. I like the visual programming. All right, let's take a break. Let's take 15 and come back, and we'll look at blueprint classes. Maybe we'll try to package this cube with the trigger, with the light, into a little module so I can duplicate this around the level and run around and trigger them. Maybe we'll try to create like a little Mario coin pickup style thing too. We'll see how much time we have. Anything else that you have in mind we could try too? So I'm just freestyling. All right, enjoy your break.
The focal length or something like that. Like you could have like a cube that you can always focus on, and then after you do it, I don't know.
That's built in already, actually. If you create a camera in any context, you have a camera, and if you, let's see if I can. If you go down to the look at tracking settings, you can assign an actor to track the drop down, or you can use the eyedropper to just select, like say, this cylinder. So it'll always be in focus, or it'll always look at it. or no, actually look at tracking. Let's try this. Okay, sure. Do you need this back? You can take this back. I don't need to keep it. Yeah, just so you know. All right. Yeah, feel better. Homework for this week was shoot something and post the footage, just the raw footage. Next week is keying, but that's what we're supposed to talk about today. But since we're missing half the class, we decided to freestyle a little bit. Yeah. So I think I might just kick that assignment back a week. I haven't told anybody else that yet, but I just decided that. Cool. Yep, see it. So anyways, the look at settings. But I said cylinder. Oh, I think I clicked the wrong cylinder because it is looking at that cylinder now. Actually turn the camera to look at it. Let's click on the eyedropper here. Whoop, it looked at it right away. So if I move this, hypothetically, it should. Look at the camera moving. Look at that. It's a little dark, but you get the idea. It's almost like it was meant to do this, right? And those programs weren't. Yeah, I mean that's useful if you have a game and you want to track something around, or you have like a 2.5D platformer or something. You need the camera to follow the character around.
Or even like a moving plate or something like that.
Yeah. Sure. We usually with our plates, if you're talking like visual effects wise, usually what we'll do is, I guess we didn't talk about this in this class yet, but what's going on here? It's too dark. Let me adjust this camera. We'll actually do this next week. Oops. What we usually do for that is to, if we're talking about the same thing, is we'll make a plane or an image plate in the camera. So it's a component of the camera, it's a child of the camera, so that anywhere the camera goes, the plate stays aligned with it. It's a little skewed right now, but I think you get the idea. Yeah, anywhere the camera goes, well, let me point it down so you can have some reference.
And that's also the problems you
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and some of those things, and some of those things, the planes are placed in the environment instead of attached to the camera. So then you could fly over top of them. But yeah, you don't get the parallax unless the footage was actually shot with a moving camera.
Yeah.
Like on a crane or something.
We actually released a bar or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get out.
Yeah, just like it's for like a smooth pan. Yeah, so the plane just comes along. It's also important to keep that video footage aligned with the camera too. Like if you have your plane and it's tilted, the footage is going to be skewed, Why is this weirdly tilted? Is the camera tilted? Oh, I think it tilted the no. Yeah, it tilted the camera when it looked at it. It made these weird rotational values. There we go.
What time roughly is the break over? Like, 2:30? Yeah.
Check, check. All right, so we've used the level blueprint now for everything, which is neat. We've been able to do some things. But my example that I gave before we took a break was, what if I wanted to take this cube, this trigger box, the light associated with it? What if I wanted to take that and I wanted to place like 10 of them around the level, right? I could duplicate this here. I could go into the level blueprint. I could duplicate this code 10 times. That would work, but it would be much easier to create a module out of this, a blueprint class out of this that becomes something in the content browser that I can just drag in. It drags in as a prefabricated little module with all of the assets. Not that there's a lot here, it's just a trigger box, a light, and a cube, and all of the code as well. Let's try to do that. not this exact one, but let's try to do it with something different. So I added the starter content to my level. I don't know if you have the starter content folder. If you don't, we can get it though. You go to the add button, add feature or content pack up top, then content tab, starter content, add to project. This just has some meshes in it that I can work with. I'm going to go back to my content folder in my content browser. And I'm going to click add, blueprint class, actor. And I'm just going to call this BP underscore light. And double click it. And I'm going to move the tab up top here. So level blueprint is everything in the level. These class blueprints are like isolated little modules of stuff. In this case, I'm going to take this hanging light, put a light on the light mesh, maybe hook it up to a trigger box, and then place it all around the level. So I'm going to go back into my blueprint for my light and start adding things. So over here in the component window, and click add, and oh, because I already have it selected in my content browser, it's right there. Static mesh, the lamp from the ceiling. Did you create the blueprint class?
Yeah.
And then I just opened it up and I dragged it up to the tab. Did you add the starter content? I think we're in the same spot. Did you double click it to open it up?
Yeah.
Easiest thing to do then would be to go down to the starter content folder, props, and the ceiling lamp, and just single click it. And then go back to the blueprint. And then in the components window in the top left, click add. And then it says static mesh, SM underscore lamp underscore ceiling. Add down here and add feature or content pack. And then content. Yeah, there you go. Actor, the top one. Y'all are doing great. All this is unscripted, all unplanned. We're freestyling. All right, so I double click to open the blueprint. And right now, this is a ceiling lamp, so it makes sense that it's hanging from the ceiling below the grid. Maybe in our case, I want to raise it up a little bit so it's above the grid. So I want to put a trigger box underneath it. I want to do some other things. So right now we just have a mesh in the blueprint. We're going to add a couple other things. We're going to add a light itself, the actual light bulb, not just the mesh. And we're going to add a trigger box. Things that we've done before, it's just now we're doing it in a blueprint class. So after you've moved the mesh a little bit, we can move it again. Don't worry if it's not perfect right now. We're going to go up to the components window again, add point light. And try to move that point light up into the, up by the light bulb in the light. And then also add a trigger box in the add button in the components. Box collision is what it's called. Box collision. Anything can be a collision, but we're using just boxes right now. And I'm just going to place this collision up on top of the grid a little bit. And I don't know, do we want to keep it this big? Do we want to make it a little bigger? It's up to you. Maybe I'll make it a tiny bit bigger. Good enough. Click compile, click save. All right. I'm going to jump back to the level real quick and go up to where I created this blueprint. I created it in content. It creates in whatever folder you're clicked on when you add it. But here I have BP Light. And I'm going to drag it into my level in maybe a couple spots. And look at that. Even if you're not putting code into this, like we're going to make this interactive with the trigger box. But even if you're not doing anything interactive with it, maybe it's, you know, like a street lamp in your game that is just, you know, has a bunch of pieces with it, and you just want to place a bunch of them all around the world. You can create these little modules so you can group actors together, so you can quickly place them as little sets. And they come into the level like this as blueprints, right? But you still get to see the component window down bottom. So we can still modify individual ones here. Like if I wanted to move this light down on this one, all the other ones stay the same, even though this is still a child of the main master one. It's kind of a cool feature, like prefabs in Unity. Let's do the coding part now. I'm going to save, go back to BP Light. Now I'm going to go to my event graph inside of the blueprint. And this looks very similar to the level blueprint. Same sort of idea. Kind of the exact same stuff, actually. In our case, though, we already have an event begin at overlap right here. But that's not necessarily what we need. We need to get the box collision. So let's click on the box, right click, add event for box collision, add on component begin overlap, and then also get the end overlap one too. And then we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to drag the point light in from the components because that's going to be our reference to it. We're going to drag off of point light and we're going to make two set intensities. I'm just going to go ahead and do this and then zoom in on it so you can see. Same stuff. Select the two or more nodes that you want to straighten, and then hit Q. It's also a button. If you do Shift WASD, it does like top alignment, left alignment, right alignment, bottom alignment. Oh no, now I have a mess of nodes on top of each other. That works for material nodes too. All right, if I click compile, oh, I should probably set some intensities. If I click on my light, the default brightness of my point light is 5,000, which if I look at my level, that's pretty bright. So maybe I should set the default intensity to, I don't know, 500? Compile and save and see how that looks in the world. All right, that's more dim, and then I can actually see where the lights are. So if I set my default brightness at 500, which is what the brightness is going to be if I'm not stepping in either of these trigger boxes, then maybe I should set the end overlap back to 500 too. In my case, I mean, your daytime scene might be different, so you might need bigger values. So I'm going to set the end overlap back to 500, so it goes back to the default, and then I'm going to set the overlap amount to, the big number, 5,000. Compile, save. Moment of truth. Let's try it out. Fingers crossed. Possibility of failure is high. I should have probably put a little cube underneath. Boop. 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 It's working. You know what? I do want to put a little cube underneath, or maybe a cylinder or something. So if I go back to the viewport, I go to add components, cylinder. I'll just push this through the grid a tiny bit. If I compile and save this. Oops, did I not push it through enough? Nope, I didn't push it through enough. Raise it up a little bit more. There we go. Compile, save. Look at that. It happens to all of them now. Maybe I should raise my light up a little higher. You'd have to use a timeline to do that, where you're fading in from whatever value to the brightest, and then have another. You could then take that. The timeline node has reverse on it, so you could then take that timeline node and plug the reverse into the end overlap, and then the opposite will happen. It'll play the timeline backwards. You could have two timelines to do it. Yeah, you absolutely could do it.
So I'm just wondering.
Were you? You were?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like, want to optimize it.
You want to optimize it?
But
oh no. Okay.
So
Oh,
there's an issue.
what are you trying to change exactly again?
I had it like everything static. Oh, my comic box. Does it need to be stationary? Make sure that the lights are like actually being able to be reactive.
Mine is, I guess, movable. Yeah, I did not set that, but for some reason it became movable. Maybe it detected when I plugged it into the code, although it seems like you plugged it in too. So I don't. That is 100% something that it should be though, because it is a movable light. Actually, stationary should work because it's stationary lights do not translate, but they can change in brightness and color, which is what that is doing. But movable is everything. But you have it set to stationary.
Yeah, I had that. I changed it to static, and then that no.
Static does not work. Okay. That makes sense. I did not change that. I don't know how it got changed automatically.
Oh, no, no, I was-
Oh, you changed. It was
Yeah.
movable. Okay. It must have made it movable when plugged into code. Here, I'm curious. I'm gonna create a new light for a second. You don't have to do this, but I just want to see something. Oh, it's just all the lights that you put in a blueprint, I guess, are movable by default. Hmm. Well, you definitely optimized it. Look at you. You went from 60 frames a second to 60 frames a second. All right. Uh, all right, I want to do like a little coin pickup thing, but why don't we do something fun before we do that? Why don't we try to crash the computers? That'd be fun, right? How do I want to do this? This is going to be actually, let's go back to the BP lights and let's turn on, click on the lamp itself in the blueprint. And over in the details, let's turn on physics and compile and save. When I play this, all the lights should just fall, which they did. Whoa, get out of here, light. Boom. The physics is in, you click on whatever mesh you want to turn it on for, and then over in details, below the material, simulate physics, checkbox. Well, I want to do something really stupid, so let's set it up. Okay. What I'm going to do, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to have a keyboard button. I'm just going to hit the button and it's going to spawn the lights from a target point in the sky. So first I need to set a target point. So if I go to the quick add button again and I type in target, I should get this thing called a target point, which is just like a null actor. I'm going to put it somewhere in the sky, not super high, just high enough that it gives room to fall down and they don't stack on top of each other really quickly. So I'm going to put mine over there. Good enough. Save. And I'm going to go back to the level blueprint now. Level blueprint, not the blueprint for the light. Remember, if you close down the level blueprint, you can always get it back from these little nodes right here. Go to open level blueprint. Okay. I'm going to click on my target point in my worlds. I'm going to go to the level blueprint. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a reference. I'm going to right click and create a reference to the target point. If you have it selected, it should be right there. Then I'm going to create a, why don't we use the H key now? Whatever key you want to use. H key. H. I just type H and then keyboard and it's right there. So when I press the H key, I want to have something happen. So we're going to drag out from the target point and we're going to say get actor transform. So we're going to get the location of what? We're going to get the actor transform of what? We're going to get it for the target point. And then we're going to take a node, we're going to get a node called spawn actor from class. Spawn actor from class. And in this node, we have to select the class. And the class is the blueprint we made for the light. So whatever you called Oops. Whatever you called that blueprint when you made it. I think I called mine BP underscore light. There's also a lot of other things in there that look similar, but I know BP underscore light is the one I made. All right. We're going to connect the pressed H button to the input on spawn actor from class. And we want BP light to spawn where? We want it to spawn from the spawn transform, which is the transform value from the target point. So we need to connect this orange to the orange. Hypothetically, we could connect, this is crazy. Hypothetically, we could connect the player pawn's location to the transform. So they're just like following us along, spawning while hitting the H key, and we're running around the level. I mean, coolest game ever. Well, let's try it out. Oops. Moment of truth. All right, where is it? Not over there. Those ones just fell down. I think it's over here. If I hit the H key, it spawned on top of this. Well, they're spawning the cylinder because the cylinder is the mark on the floor. The cylinder does not have physics on it. So, well, I could disable the cylinder, or I could put physics on the cylinder too. We might as well just have a lot of stuff fall. So let's click on the cylinder too, if you have one, and also turn on physics for that. And play. And if you freeze your computer, that's your own fault. Wow. It's starting to slow down. "14 frames a second. Can we get it under 10? Oh, I'm still at 10. Oh, 9. I think I saw a 9. Wow. Best game ever. I call this game standing on lights that are falling from the sky. It does. Beautiful. Good work, team. We did it. So that was possible because we made a blueprint class of that light with all of those things attached to it. We put the actual mesh of the hanging lamp. We put the light, the point light on it to make it illuminated. We added the trigger box to trigger it, and also the sphere or the cylinder to act as a little platform. All right, we got half an hour. Let's try something more actual game like then. Hopefully we don't screw this up. Everything else has worked so far. First things first, let's find our let's go into our third person character. Yeah, let's net browse in content browser to our third person character blueprints and then double click on third person character here. We're going to put a variable in this character. called coins. So in the My Blueprint section in variables, click the little plus icon. Let's just call this coins. And let's change this to, click the little drop down, it says Boolean by default, and let's change this to an integer. So whole numbers of coins. In the content browser, I opened up the third person character, which is in, you should have a third person folder, assuming you are doing third person map. And then blueprints. And then it's this one. Question? I think 64 can be bigger numbers. Big numbers. In length, not in size, but in digit value. Yes. I assume that's what that means. Sort of goes back to our color talk. Well, you weren't here for that last week, but you know, like something that is 1 bit can be 2 things, on and off, black and white. If it's 2-bit, then it can be 4 things. If it's 3-bit, 2 times 2 times 2, 8 things, and so on. So 2 times 64 is a lot of things. Did we get it? We got the third person character. In My Blueprint, in variable, we created coins. Click the little plus next to variables. Name it coins, and then click the little drop down that says Boolean, probably it's the red one. Change it to integer. And we click on the little eyeball too. Forget if we need to do that or not, but click on the little eyeball. Compile, save, and then we won't need to open that one back up again. Let's do the whole thing with the light over again, but let's make another class blueprint. So I might move through this a little bit more rapidly. I'm gonna create another class blueprint, right click in content browser, actor, call this BP coin, double click to open it. I'll make my own coin shape here, just with a cylinder component. And then I'll smush it. And I'll rotate it. And I'll smush it some more. I'll make it a little bit tall, like a Mario coin. Maybe not that tall. It seems a little gigantic right now. It's hard to tell, but we can stick with that. Is there any yellow materials here? No. You'd have to make a material first. So I was trying to avoid doing that. Oh, there's a nice pink material here, though. I'll just use that. What could go wrong? Just randomly picking a material. If we have time, I'll put an actual texture on it, but this is fine for right now. Maybe I will keep it a circle. We'll have an easier time finding a graphic that's a circle. File. In that case, maybe I should have made it a plane, but that's all right. Okay, coins, and we need to put a box collision on it, just like the light. Raise this up a little bit. Make it big enough to encompass the coin, but not so big that I get false positives. Compile, save. I'm going to go to the event graph and click on my box collision. I'm going to right click, go to add function or add event, collision, begin overlap, just like we've done before. Nothing new there. Now this time I want to drag out from the execution pin of that overlap, and I want to type cast to third person character. So I want that top one there, cast to third person character. What this is doing is that it's going and getting the reference to the character third person that we then put the variable in for the coins. And I want to connect object to other actor. Now, because I'm casting to, I'm in a different blueprint right now. There's no coins variable in here. The coins variable is in the third person blueprint, right? But casting to it is going to allow me to bring those variables into this blueprint. So I'm going to drag out from as BP third person character. I'm going to drag out from there. And I'm going to type in coins. Coins is not the name of a node in Unreal. Coins is only here because we created a variable called that. So I want to get a get and a set. Oh, coins. Get coins. And then I also want to drag out and get a set coins. We're going to get the number of coins, and then we're going to set the number of coins, but we're going to increment it by 1 every single time I pick up a coin. What was all this math? I'm a digital artist, not a math person. Yeah, 100%. Like, I hated math until I started doing art, and then I realized there's a lot of math in the world. Funny how that works. I'm going to drag out from coins, and I'm going to type a plus. Add. And I just want to make this a 1. Every time I overlap this box, it's going to go and get the variable for coins. It's going to get whatever the current amount of coins is and then add 1 to it. And then it's going to set the coins to that new value. And then the whole thing can start over again. Does that make sense? We have 0 coins. I hit the box. It goes and get the coins. There's 0. Add 1. Set the number of coins to 1. Now the variable for coins is 1. I go back and hit the box again. What's the value of coins? 1. Add 1 to 1. Set the value to 2. Go back and hit the box. The variable is storing the value for. Okay. It remembers the value. No, because it's already been exposed and it already knows. Yeah, good question though. All right, then let's I guess let's just print the string and see what happens. We have a bunch of other strings printing, so we might have to disconnect some, but we'll see. And I don't want to print any words. I want to print the number of coins. Remember, the turquoise ones are integer values. So I'm going to drag the turquoise into the magenta. Create the little converter. Yeah. Converts the integer value to text. Compile. No errors. Save. Drag a couple of these into my world. They seem fairly enormous right now, but that's okay. Play. Let's pay attention to. There's a lot of other things happening. Well, I got 1, but they didn't disappear yet. I got 2, I got 3. So the math is working, but they're not disappearing yet. It keeps adding because they aren't disappearing, right? This is like the bonus coin room. We're just getting all the coins. But that's the next step. Next step is we need to destroy those coins somehow. It just so happens that there is a nice destroy actor node. So we just connect that to that. Compile, save. Now it should work. 1, 2, 3. Gone forever. You want to animate them? Let's do it. Maybe. How do we feel about the size? Are they okay size wise? You like how big they're? You cannot miss it. All right, let's animate it. So how do we want to do this? We want to, I guess, right click, add actor local rotation, and then to do rotation, we need to do rotation, we need a make rotator node. It's called make rotator. And that value is plugged into the delta rotation. And then we need a multiply node. So asterisk for multiply. We need to plug this into here. We need to plug this into the yaw because they're spinning on their vertical axis. And then yaw per second, let's just put in 10 and see what happens. Might be nothing. Nothing. But they're still disappearing. Let's try a bigger number. Might need to actually create a variable for that. So, still nothing. Oh, idiot. Nothing's triggering it to rotate. Rotation. Oh man, we have to add some sound to this though, right? Sound, play sound at location. Yeah, that sounds good. I don't know what sort of default sounds are on here. Is my volume on? Yes. Yes. Some of these noises might be very loud. Nothing. 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 Why am I not playing sound? I play it on my computer, maybe. What the heck? Okay, there's just a super long delay. Well, these are some sounds that are in here already, so maybe these are good enough. Collapse. One time in a class a long time ago, my speakers were cranked and I was clicking through these sounds and it was just a big explosion that happened. Oh. People hit the deck. I was like, my bad. I think we'll just use the camera shutter for now. I'm sorry, it's in the interest of time. So the location of the blueprints. So if you had, which is weird because you're there too, because you're hitting the coin. But if this was like a multiplayer game, you were over there and I was hitting the coins, you would hear it from that location.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa. Oh, I think they're triggering themselves right now. No, they're not triggering. Well, let's debug. This is not. Yeah, maybe it's not. Yes. No, place sound at location should work. Fine. Oh, you're right. Look at that. Look at that. This guy. Yeah, it's on the wrong thing. Wow. There we go. Wrong place. Too many things. That's a great job. Yes. Yay! Stuff's happening. But you know what? I don't want them to. I don't want them to just be destroyed because I want them to respawn. So what if we, instead of destroying them, I'm going to rearrange some things here. Instead of destroying them, let's still play the sound. That's good. Instead of destroying them, I'm going to get rid of the destroy, and I'm going to set hidden in game cylinder. The cylinder is the coin. Set actor hidden in game, and well, that's fine because it's going to make it hidden, but it's still gonna. I might not be able to go through it. Let's see. Let's test it out. It's probably going to be like an invisible wall. So it's still there. Yeah. Oh, it didn't actually go through. So actor hidden in game. Oh, hidden. Yeah, the Boolean value set hidden. But it's an invisible wall, so I actually need to also set the collision. Set disable collision. No, set actor collision. Set actor enable collision. Yeah. So we want to turn the collision off. All right, so this should get us back to the same exact thing when we were destroying them. Yeah. But I want them to respawn. So maybe I can set a delay here. 2 seconds. And then we can just copy these nodes to unset it hidden. So not hidden anymore. And also the collision is back. We need to make sure that the target for the cylinder is connected to all of these. Actually, don't even know if we need the target, to be honest. Yay! Look at that. Best game ever. Collecting coins with falling lights. And we'll just keep going. We'll just fill up the variable to all. Well, this isn't a 64-digit with a 64-bit integer. So it's a 32-bit. I don't know. Question?
How would you be able to expand the text or something that you want to
I'm glad you asked, because that is our next thing. But I'm going to have to speed run through this. All right. So that is another blueprint I'm going to create. Blueprint class. None of these. There's a whole other list of classes down here. And I want a widget. What kind of widget? A user widget, I think. Create widget blueprint. Yeah, a widget blueprint. Widget. Visual. Select. Yes. widget. Is this gonna allow me to No, this is not. This is not what I want. Um, widget. Kind of user widget. Enables UI accessibility. No. BP widget. No, that's the one I just made. Oh, it is. Okay. No, it isn't. It's just so much stuff. I forget exactly what it is. If you knew what it was called, it's pretty simple, but widget base class controls all slate controls. That is what it is. No. Damn, I'm running out of time. Let's try one more thing. Is it a user widget? User widget? Yes, it's a user widget. That's what we want. So this is where you can actually design interfaces and stuff. So if I go in here and I get a text block, and then I can take this text block and what do I want to do? I want to increase the size. That sounds good. Let's just say coins and colon, and let's add on. Do this. Maybe we'll just put the number. So if I freestyle, figure this out, I got to create a binding because I don't want it to just be text. I want it to get the value from the variable. So I have to do that thing where I cast to third person character again to get the variable for player character, the player character, speed coding, object, drag out from here, we should see coins, get coins. We're just getting the value of coins. I have two text to turn that to text. No, two text int. Two text int. Return the value. Oops. Why is this not working? Do I need to call it something else? Oh, there we go. Change that to text, plug that in, compile, error. Well, you might have stumped me for right now. To text. We'll just use that one instead. There's a lot of things that seem very similar. Still error. And the return node. Inputs. Integer. Get color and opacity has the wrong number of arguments. String? Oh no, not an input. Let's change that to integer. No. Text. No, not gonna be able to do it. But what's supposed to happen is it would just be big text on the screen. I'm just missing something right now. So for next week, post that green screen footage. I'm gonna kick back the green screen keying assignment till the following week because we didn't talk about that today. Okay.
Curiosity, I assume that is really stable.
Correct for right now. Yeah. We haven't done a camera movement yet. God damn. What's Yeah, I don't know. To text int grouping value. That's all right. But it's the return node that is giving the wrong. It's a single? Is it an array? It's not an array.
Is there a chance that the text is a variable?
It is. Coins is a variable. Get coins. And we convert that to a text. That's not going to work. No. It does not like that. No, it just does not like that. Can't connect the return value to name. Can't connect it to text. Does not like it. Does not like it. Oh. Oh, that might work. No, it doesn't. No. Well, you definitely can. I'm just missing something right now. I don't even know what color opacity delegate means. I don't know what that means. All right, any questions? So no assignment for next week. Just post the footage if you haven't yet, or shoot it if you haven't yet. And next week we'll talk about keying and start talking about match motion and tracking. Sound good? All right. Thanks for taking a journey with blueprints with me. Kind of fun, right? This is pissing me off, though. I got a week. No, what's pissing me off is that this is the blueprints demo that I give all the time. I mean, I memorized it, but
I think it's a 5.6.1 update. It's messing everything up. They completely overhauled.
no, I know what the problem. I know what the problem is. It's this. I don't know what this is. Get color and opacity. That's new. That's interesting. That's not. That's not what I want. I don't want to get color and opacity. I want to. No, I want to. No, this is what I want. I want to create a binding. Yes, this is what I want. I just clicked the wrong thing in a panic, is what I did. So color and opacity it was thinking that for some reason it was going to color and opacity, and that's not what. No. Text. That's right. That's still. Oh, I don't want this. Delete this. I can't even tell if this one's correct now. You guys can go. You don't have to watch me crash and burn. All right. Hey, it compiled. That was it. It was just the color and opacity. I just clicked the wrong one in the designer, so I was making the wrong one interactive. I wasn't making text interactive because text is based on the variable. I clicked on color opacity by accident. Duh. Now I just need to do one more thing. I need to go back to the level blueprint and event begin play up top. Event begin play, we're going to go off of here, create widget. What's the widget called? I think it's called BP widget. I named it. We want to add to viewport. Yes, yes. Compile. And we could make some other sort of condition. We could say, like, when you get to 10 coins, you win the game or something. I could say win. There you go. Thanks for having faith in me. We got it. There we go. Let's make it even bigger so we can just bask in it. That's not how big I want. I want it bigger. Bigger. There we go.
Bye.
You're missing the big coins. Look. Yeah. I'll still be here collecting coins. So, see y'all. Thanks for being patient with half the class missing.
No problem. Have a good one.
See ya.
No, they're missing out, you know.
That's right. That's right.